Parents of medical students who've been expelled from Cuban universities must pay back the money. A Durban toddler survives 3 days in the bush without food or water. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNEWS Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Lekangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct.
And tonight's hashtags are Pick It Up and Labour Tenants.
And we start with not so great news. The KwaZulu-Natal government wants students who are no longer studying medicine in Cuba to pay back the money. The province spent millions of rands in 2012 to send 800 students to Cuba. However, 19 are back home after being expelled for poor performance or misbehavior.
Disappointed parents received the news that their children will no longer be studying medicine in Cuba. South Africa has sent 3,000 students to Cuban universities. Almost a third come from KwaZulu-Natal, but 19 have been kicked off campus.
You do a class, you don't pass, you repeat, you still don't pass, then you don't get a third chance. So they are excluded on what we could call it academic exclusion.
This government-sponsored program is not a bursary scheme, but a fund that students pay back by working in the public service once they've graduated. Authorities now want the money back from those who've been expelled.
We were saying to the parents, you now do owe the government. However, as you owe the government, there was no plan that you were going to pay back the money as parents.
Tembeli Lembata has been studying in Cuba for the last 3 years and says she has only herself to blame.
I cannot blame the professors or anyone. The professors did their job. It was up to me to perform to my level best, of which I think I didn't do. That's why I'm here.
The health department has urged former students to study other degrees so that they are not lost to the health profession. Skushangase, Durban.
We bring you the miraculous story now of a Durban toddler who survived 3 days in the bush without food or water. It's believed Samkelo Cele wandered off on Saturday. The SAPS dog unit tracked him down on Tuesday. Initially dehydrated, the little one has since been given a clean bill of health.
This playful toddler is a real tough guy. It's believed Samkelo Cele wandered off from his home. For 3 days, his mother and community members looked high and low. Police officer Clinton O'Dea and his dog Dante joined the search on Tuesday after being delayed by poor weather the day before. And it wasn't long before Dante struck gold.
He had some sort of marks all over his face. His feet was wrinkled, his hands were wrinkled, feet was white under, perhaps due to the cold and the water that absorbed through his feet that ran down the tunnel there. And his nappy had fallen off him. Perhaps he got over-soaked and wet.
Apart from being hungry and dehydrated, doctors say Samkelo is perfectly healthy. His mother describes it as a miracle.
I'm feel very happy because I found him alive, which is not a usual thing to find the person alive after these days.
Cele has vowed to keep the curious toddler closer than ever. Desan Thathia, Lindalani, Durban.
In other news, Labour tenants will have to wait a little longer to know if their land claims dating as far back as 2001 will finally be processed. Judge Mokotedi Mpie has postponed their case to the 12th of May. The 19,000 farm dwellers are asking the court to appoint a special master to monitor the processing of their claims. The claims have been with the Department of Rural Development since 2001, but nothing has been done with them. About 100,000 farm dwellers are involved in the class action case. The law around tenants was passed in 1996. It aims to give security of tenure to families living on land owned by others, which their parents or grandparents have lived on. According to their lawyer, this case just hasn't been a priority for government. Some Johannesburg residents are turning to private refuse collectors as waste piles up across the city. About 3,000 pick-it-up workers have been striking illegally for almost 2 weeks now. Pick It Up says the work stoppage is costing it R1 million a day to outsource refuse collection.
Some enterprising Joburgers are turning these piles of trash into cash. This man will collect and dispose of your rubbish for R100 a bin.
This week probably about, I'd say about 10 to 15 a day. I must receive 30, 40 calls a day. And a lot of it is people that I've taken from before, you know, that are now phoning again, or they've given their neighbours my details. And
We've blurred Wayne's face so he can't be victimized. He's a blessing in disguise for frustrated residents.
Have had enough. I'm fed up. The neighborhood looks terrible. It's completely unsanitary. We've got rats that come from the river next door. And who wants to live in a pile of rubbish for the long weekend?
Tracy Duplessis works for a company that manages residential complexes.
Each owner pays council directly for their rates and refuse, and therefore they should be given the service. So now what is happening is we need to pay these private contractors, which end up costing quite a bit more.
Pick It Up says it's doing everything it can, but it needs residents to do their bit.
Whenever they have excess waste, and if they've got the means, we've got 42 garden sites spread out across the city of Johannesburg. They can go and drop that waste there free of charge.
As the days pass and the rubbish piles up, Pick It Up has vowed it won't be intimidated by striking workers. And until the company cleans up its act, entrepreneurs like Wayne will be cashing in on the filth. Malungelo Pui, Johannesburg.
With the Easter weekend upon us, Johannesburg's Metro Police Department is working to ensure fewer road fatalities this year. Operation Paseka aims to clamp down on traffic offenders, and officers had their hands full at roadblocks today.
As Gauteng holiday makers and churchgoers head to their long weekend destinations, they've been given a friendly warning to obey the law.
We are going to look at the illegal firearms. We are also looking at human trafficking. You have seen yesterday we had a very big operation on the R21 where we arrested somebody in possession of drugs, and day before yesterday with a big amount of 2.5 million.
Operation Paseka was launched during Easter last year. It contributed to the arrest of over 700 drunk drivers and other offenders over the holiday period. Many motorists have given the initiative the thumbs up.
I think it's great because of the drunken drivers, and especially with the roads being safe, it's better for us to go to wherever we want to.
Others are annoyed by the high traffic volumes caused by the roadblocks.
It's obviously adding a little time to the travelling, and I think it can be frustrating for motorists.
Inspections on the road kicked off on Thursday, and several arrests have already been made. Last year, nearly 300 people died on South Africa's roads over the Easter weekend. Lindwes Tole, Grasmere Plaza.
News from around the world now, and the Belgian prosecutor says Tuesday's terror attack that claimed over 30 lives could have been much worse. A third bomb, by far the biggest device, failed to explode. But Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan claims Belgium ignored warnings of a possible attack. He says one of the suicide bomber brothers was deported from Turkey last year but was released by Belgian authorities, who found he had no links with terrorism. And Australia and Malaysia say after being analysed, 2 plane parts found earlier this month in Mozambique almost certainly came from missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. A team is heading to South Africa to check a third piece that washed up near Mossel Bay. The plane vanished in March 2014 with 239 people on board.
Time to see what people are talking about on social media. Duduzile?
Indeed. Thank you so much, Sandile. And today marks World TB Day, one of the world's deadliest infectious diseases. And this year's theme is Unite to End TB. As deadly as it may be, we have some good news from government. In 2014, the Department of Health introduced a groundbreaking drug called bedaquiline. The cure rate among patients who've been using the drug is high. Figures show success rates of between 75 and 97%. That's compared to situations where the drug isn't taken at all. And of course, if you're heading off for the long weekend, here's a message for you. Drive safe. Easter traffic is beginning to build up ahead of the long weekend. And for your latest traffic updates and toll gate fees, you can head on over onto Twitter and use the hashtag Easter Traffic and find out firsthand what the road ahead will be like. Remember to comment on any of our stories. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct, or head on over to our website, enca.com/direct. Do stay with us after the break. Your business news as well as your weather. Welcome back. Money matters now, and AMCU's planned strike at Sibanye Gold will not go ahead. The Labour Court has dismissed the union's appeal against the gold firm's interdict. The move comes after gold producers agreed a wage deal with the majority union in the sector, the eNEWS, last year. The 3-year wage agreement was also signed by Solidarity and UASA. AMCU argues it should have a right to strike at Sibanye despite not having a majority. The other 3 unions also didn't represent 50% plus 1 employee. Sibanye Gold says it's unable to increase the offer agreed to by other unions. And with that, let's see how the markets performed today. Let's check in with the Weather Centre now. Here's Jill Guy.
Welcome to the Weather Center. On Thursday afternoon, we saw isolated thundershowers developing in these areas highlighted here, and we are currently seeing the storm clouds over the Free State threatening to move down into the northern parts of the Eastern Cape. At the same time, we have high-level clouds streaming across the southwestern parts of the country. Now, on Friday, we are going to see isolated to scattered thunderstorms starting early across the eastern areas of the Northern Cape, pushing down into much of southern South Africa. It's going to be partly cloudy for the northeastern areas, and we are expecting late night drizzle along the west coast. Now, here's a closer look at the weather in your provinces, and we start as usual with KwaZulu-Natal, where mostly sunny skies are forecast for the southern sections. Thundershowers over the northern and western parts of the province. Durban will peak at around 31 degrees. It's going to be unsettled across much of the Eastern Cape, with temperatures in the lower 20s for much of the province, fairly warm for the northern and eastern parts of the Eastern Cape. We are also expecting thundershowers for the central and eastern areas of the Western Cape. A bit of rain around Hermanus, but Cape Town and Langaban will be partly cloudy with highs around 27 degrees. Thundershowers are also forecast in the Northern Cape for the eastern and southern areas. Springbok is going to be mostly sunny with a mild 23 for the top temperature. We are expecting partly cloudy skies with isolated thundershowers for the western areas of the Free State. Bloemfontein warms up to around 29. Partly cloudy and dry weather is forecast across much of the northwest, with temperatures hovering around the 30-degree mark for most areas. It's going to be mostly sunny across much of Limpopo, Polokwane warming to around 28. Partly cloudy weather is also forecast for the Mpumalanga province. A high of 30 is forecast for Mbombela. It's also going to be partly cloudy and dry for Gauteng, Johannesburg and Soweto, warming to 27 degrees. We stay with thunder showers on a Saturday around the northern, central and southern parts of the country. Rainy weather is expected to set in along the west coast. Then on Sunday, summer-like weather sets in across the bulk of South Africa, but it's going to be rather wintry for the western sections.
Thank you, Joel. Here's what's coming up after the break. New life is breathed into the musical Sophia Town 3 decades after its debut. Here's one for theatre lovers. The classic musical Sophiatown is returning to the Market Theatre in Johannesburg. First performed in 1986, veteran director Malcolm Perky is bringing the memorable production to life once again.
One of the all-time classics, one of Johannesburg's last freehold areas, Sophiatown in the 1950s was a hotbed of creativity where people of all colours live side by side. We caught up with the cast and crew at rehearsals.
3 decades after its debut, this classic is back on stage at the Market Theatre.
What is it about it that makes you want to keep retelling it over and over again?
Questions of what do we celebrate, what is the relationship between music and politics, what is the relationship between writing, fiction, music and politics. They're so embedded in this play, and there's such a life energy in this play that somehow or other it always finds its audience.
The play tells the story of 2 black journalists living in Sophiatown who advertise for a white Jewish housemate. Despite the newly implemented apartheid laws, they get permission for the woman to move in, sparking discussions about identity, race relations and integration.
It's not just lights and jazz and beauty, and you get to see a little bit into the other part of Sophiatown, and I mean, it is the forced removals.
3 days in.
I want everybody to, whether it's one scene, one moment, one lyric, one melody line that really resonates with the person, I want them to leave this place and think about something that they wouldn't have thought about before they came to this play, to really evaluate their lives.
Catch these a cappella harmonies at the Market Theatre until mid-April. Nontobeko Sbisi at the Market Theatre.
Of course, we love to hear from you. So once you've checked out Sophiatown, do share your thoughts with us on @eNEWS Direct. A reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. Parents of medical students who've been expelled from Cuban universities must pay back the money. A Durban toddler survives 3 days in the bush without food or water. And that's our lot for the week.
It is. We're back on Tuesday. Rhythm City's up next.
To share your views, you can send us an email to enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
You can, of course, just chat to us on Twitter and Facebook, and our handle is @eNewsDirect.
Until Tuesday night, have a fantastic Easter weekend. Bye-bye.